The old records were kept in a chamber that no one visited anymore. Dust covered the ancient data crystals. The light inside was dim and yellow. Ambassador walked through this forgotten place with slow steps. His 4 legs made soft sounds on the stone floor. His scales, pale blue like winter ice, caught the weak light. He did not want to be here. The High Council had sent him. They had heard rumors. Strange ships had been seen near the border, ships that matched no known design, ships that belonged to a species called humans. Found the crystal he was looking for. It was old, very old, perhaps 3,000 years old. He placed it in the reader and waited. The hologram that appeared was broken in places. The image flickered, but the voice was clear enough. "If you are watching this," the ancient voice said, "then they have found you, the humans. We do not know where they came from. We do not know how they survived in their harsh world, but we know this. They do not stop. They do not give up. They keep coming, even while bleeding, even while dying, they keep coming." Made a sound of disbelief. Every species had stories like this, tales meant to frighten children. He had heard similar warnings about thee and the. Both species had turned out to be ordinary, dangerous, yes, but not monsters, not unstoppable forces. He turned off the recording and left the chamber. He had more important things to do. The High Council was meeting in 1 hour. They needed to decide what to do about the human ship that had entered their space. The council chamber was large and round. 12 seats formed a circle around a central platform, took his place among the other ambassadors. High Speaker sat in the tallest chair. His scales were dark green, almost black. His eyes were gold and cold. "We have confirmed the reports," said. His voice filled the room. "A human vessel crossed into space 6 hours ago. They sent a message. Ambassador will now share it with us." Stood and activated his display. A human face appeared. It was strange to look at. Soft skin. No scales, hair on the head black and short. The human had dark eyes that seemed to hold some inner light. "This is captain of the rescue vessel Mercy," the human said. "We have received a distress signal from a crashed ship in your territory. The ship is your people. They are injured and their life support is failing. We are the closest vessel. We request permission to enter your space and help them." The recording ended. The council members looked at each other, could see the confusion on their faces. This was not what they had expected. "A trick," said Ambassador. Her scales were red and her voice was sharp. "They want access to our space. They will use this rescue as an excuse to study our defenses." "Perhaps," said, "but the crashed ship is real. The went missing 2 days ago. 43 crew members. If they are still alive, they need help." "We can send our own ships," said. "Our nearest vessel is 18 hours away," replied. "The human ship is 3 hours away. If the life support on thee is truly failing, our people will be dead before our ships arrive." Raised one clawed hand. The room went silent. "You have read the old warnings," Ambassador said. "What do they tell us about humans?" Hesitated. He thought about the dusty chamber and the ancient recording. He thought about the fear in that long-dead voice. "The warnings say humans are dangerous," he said. "They say humans do not stop. They keep fighting even when they should be dead. They ignore pain. They ignore fear." He paused. "But the warnings also say something else. They say humans have a strange need to help others, even strangers, even enemies." "You think this is real?" asked. "You think they truly want to help our people?" "I do not know," admitted. "But I think we should let them try. I will go with them. I will watch them. If they mean us harm, I will know." The council debated for another hour. In the end, they agreed. The human ship would be allowed to enter space, would board the vessel and observe everything. He would report back to the council, and if the humans showed any sign of hostile intent, he had permission to destroy their ship. Took a small shuttle to meet the human vessel. As he approached, he got his first good look at it. The ship was ugly. There was no other word for it. Ships were smooth and elegant. They flowed like water. This human ship was all hard angles and rough surfaces. It looked like it had been built in a hurry and repaired many times. But it was fast, had to admit that. His shuttle could barely keep up with it. He docked with the human ship and stepped through the airlock. The air inside was warm and wet. It smelled strange. Not bad exactly, just different. A mix of metal and something organic, something alive. A human was waiting for him. It was the captain from the message. He was shorter than expected. Humans were small creatures. This one barely reached chest. But there was something in the way he stood, something solid, like he was rooted to the floor. "Ambassador," said. He pressed his hand to his chest and bowed his head slightly. "Thank you for trusting us. We will do everything we can to save your people." "I am here to observe," said, "not to participate. My government has concerns about your species." "I understand," said. He did not seem offended. "You can go anywhere on this ship, ask any questions. We have nothing to hide." He turned and walked down the corridor, followed. The ship was cramped inside. The hallways were narrow, had to turn sideways to fit through some of them. He passed humans working at various stations. They all looked up at him with curious eyes, but none of them seemed afraid. That was strange. Most species were afraid of the were large. They had claws and sharp teeth. They had conquered many worlds. But these humans just looked at him like he was interesting, like he was a puzzle they wanted to solve. Led him to the bridge. It was a small room filled with screens and controls. 3 other humans were there. A woman with long black hair tied behind her head sat at the pilot's seat. Her fingers moved across the controls with quick, precise movements. "This is," said, "our pilot and engineer. She can fly anything and fix anything." Glanced at and nodded. "Ambassador," she said. Then she turned back to her screens. "And this is," continued, pointing to a woman near the back of the room. She was younger than the others. Her hair was cut short and she wore a white coat with many pockets. "She is our medical officer." Smiled at, it was a strange expression. Humans showed their teeth when they were happy. For most species, showing teeth was a threat, but had read about human expressions. He knew this meant she was being friendly. "We are ready to jump to the crash site," said. "The ambassador should hold onto something. The jump can be rough." Grabbed a handle on the wall. The ship shuddered. The stars outside the window stretched into long lines of light. Then everything snapped back to normal and they were somewhere else. The planet below them was brown and gray, a dead world. No atmosphere, no life, but on the surface could see the wreckage of the ship had broken into 3 pieces. Smoke rose from the largest section. "I am detecting life signs," said. 31. "They are all in the main section, but the readings are weak. They are running out of air." "How long do they have?" asked. 2 hours, maybe less." Nodded. His face was calm, but could see something change in his eyes. A hardness. A determination. "Then we need to move fast," said. "Land us as close as you can. Prepare the medical bay. We are going to have a lot of injured people." The ship descended toward the surface. Watched through the window. He thought about the old warnings. He thought about the ancient voice saying that humans do not stop. He was about to see if that was true. The ship landed hard. The ground was uneven, covered in rocks and debris. Cursed under her breath as she fought to keep the vessel steady. Finally, they were down. Was already moving. He grabbed a helmet from a rack and put it on. Other crew members did the same. Realized they were preparing to go outside, into the airless wasteland. "You are going out there yourself?" asked. "You are the captain." Looked at him. For a moment, saw something in those dark human eyes. Something fierce. Something that did not care about rank or protocol or safety. "My people are faster," said, "and every second counts. Your crew is dying out there, Ambassador. I am not going to sit here and watch." He sealed his helmet and walked toward the airlock. Followed. He wanted to see this. He needed to see this. The airlock opened and the humans stepped out onto the dead world, stayed at the door and watched. The humans moved quickly across the rocky ground. They carried equipment, medical supplies, cutting tools. They reached the wreckage in minutes. Could hear them through the communication system. Their voices were calm and professional. They found a place where the hull had cracked. They began cutting their way inside. "We have contact's voice said. "I can see survivors. They are hurt, but they are alive. We are going in." Felt something strange in his chest, a feeling he could not name. These creatures owed the nothing. They had never helped humans. They had never even spoken to humans before today. And yet here they were, risking their lives to save strangers. The old warnings had not prepared him for this. They had warned him that humans were dangerous. They had warned him that humans did not stop, but they had not warned him that humans might actually care. Stood at the airlock and watched the rescue unfold. He did not know what would happen next, but he knew one thing for certain. Everything he thought he knew about humans was wrong. Watched through the ship's external cameras as the humans disappeared into the wreckage of the broken vessel looked like a dead animal lying on the gray rocks. Smoke still rose from cracks in the hull. Warning lights blinked inside, visible through the shattered windows. The communication channel crackled with voices, was giving orders. His tone was steady and calm, like this was something he did every day. "We have wounded near the front. Looks like plasma burns and broken bones. Minu, start cutting through this door. There are more survivors on the other side." Heard metal screaming as the humans cut through the wreckage. He heard coughing and crying from the survivors inside. The sounds made his scales tighten against his skin. Those were his people in there, dying in the dark, and it was humans who had come to save them. He could not stay on the ship any longer. He grabbed a breathing mask from the wall and stepped through the airlock. The surface of the planet was cold and silent. No wind, no sound except what came through his communication device. He walked toward the wreckage. When he reached the breach the humans had cut, he stopped and looked inside. What he saw would stay with him forever. The young medical officer was kneeling beside a crew member that was badly burned. His scales were black and cracked. He was moaning in pain, had her hands on his chest. She was speaking to him in a soft voice. "You are going to be okay," she said. "I know it hurts, but I need you to stay awake. Can you do that for me? Just keep looking at my eyes. Stay with me." They did not understand her words. The translation device was working, but he was too hurt to process language. Yet something in his voice seemed to reach him. He stopped moaning. He looked at her face. His breathing became slower. Watched work. She moved with quick, sure hands. She applied something to the burns that made the sigh with relief. She checked his vital signs with a small device. She called out information to someone behind her. "This one needs surgery. Get him to the ship. Next patient." She stood up and moved to the next injured. Then the next. Then the next. Counted 12 wounded crew members in this section alone. Went to each one. She treated their wounds. She spoke to them gently. She never stopped moving. Noticed something else. There was blood on his arm. Human blood. Red, not blue like blood. A piece of metal from the wreckage had cut her. The wound was deep. He could see torn flesh and muscle. But did not stop. She did not even look at her own injury. She just kept working. "You are hurt," said. He had not meant to speak. The words came out on their own. Glanced at him. She looked at her arm like she had forgotten about it. Then she shrugged. "It can wait," she said. "Your people cannot wait." She turned back to her patients, stood there, unable to move. He had seen many things in his long life. He had seen battles. He had seen death. He had seen courage and cowardice in equal measure, but he had never seen anything like this. This small human woman was bleeding. She was in pain. He could see it in the tightness around her eyes, but she kept working. She kept helping others. Her own suffering did not matter to her. Moved deeper into the wreckage. He found another human named Minu cutting through a sealed door. On the other side, could hear more survivors calling for help. Almost through, Minyu said. He was a large human, bigger than the others. His arms were thick with muscle. Sweat ran down his face despite the cold. The door finally gave way. It fell inward with a crash. Behind it was a group of huddled together in the dark. There were 19 of them. Some were hurt. Others were just scared. They all stared at the humans with wide, confused eyes. "It is okay," said. He held up his hands to show they were empty. "We are here to help. We are going to get you out of here." One of a young female with pale green scales, stepped forward. She was shaking. "Why?" she asked. "Why are you helping us? You are humans, we were told. We were told you were dangerous." Smiled. It was a tired smile, but warm. "We are dangerous," he said. "But not to you. Not today. Today we are just people helping other people. Now come on, let us get you somewhere safe." They followed him. They had no choice. Their ship was dying around them. The air was running out. These strange, soft creatures were their only hope. Helped guide the survivors out of the wreckage. He watched the humans work. He watched carry a wounded on her back. There was twice her size, but she did not complain. She just kept walking, one step after another. Her legs shook with effort, but she did not stop. He watched Minyu lift a heavy piece of debris that had trapped a child. The metal was sharp. It cut into Minyu's hands. Blood dripped onto the ground, but he did not let go. He lifted and lifted until the child was free. He watched organize everything. The captain was everywhere at once, giving orders, carrying supplies, checking on the wounded. At some point noticed that was limping. There was something wrong with his leg, but never mentioned it. He never slowed down. By the time all 31 survivors were aboard the human ship, 2 hours had passed. They were crowded into every available space. The medical bay was full. The hallways were full. Even the bridge had wounded lying on the floor. Moved among them like a ghost. Her white coat was now red with blood. Some of it was blood. Some of it was her own. The wound on her arm had been joined by other injuries. A cut on her forehead, bruises on her ribs. She had fallen at some point inside the wreckage. She had not told anyone. Found her treating a young male who had a broken spine. The injury was severe. In a hospital, this would require a team of doctors and hours of surgery, but had only herself and limited supplies. "Can you save him?" asked. Did not look up from her work. Her hands were steady, even though her body was shaking with exhaustion. "I do not know," she said honestly, "but I am going to try." She worked for another hour, watched every moment. He saw her use tools and techniques he did not recognize. He saw her adapt to biology on the fly, making adjustments based on what she observed. She was not just treating symptoms. She was learning his species in real time. When she finally stepped back, the young was stable, not healed, but alive. He would need real surgery at a real hospital, but he would live long enough to get there. Sat down on the floor. Her legs gave out under her. She leaned against the wall and closed her eyes. For the first time, saw her true condition. She was pale. Her breathing was fast and shallow. The wound on her arm had soaked through the bandage she had applied at some point. "You need medical attention," said. Opened one eye and looked at him. She smiled weakly. "I know," she said, "but I was the only doctor. If I stopped to treat myself, your people would have died." "You could have died too." Shrugged. It seemed to be a common gesture among humans, a way of saying that something did not matter. "Then I would have died doing something that mattered," she said. "There are worse ways to go." Did not know how to respond to that. He sat down on the floor next to her. Around them the ship was chaos. Wounded filled every space. Human crew members moved among them, offering water and comfort. The ship shook as guided it away from the dead planet. "I read the old warnings about your species," said finally. "They said humans are dangerous. They said humans do not stop. They keep coming even while bleeding." Nodded slowly. "Sounds about right." "The warnings were meant to frighten us," said, "but they did not explain why humans are this way. Why do you not stop? Why do you ignore pain? Why do you help strangers who have never done anything for you?" Was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was soft. "I do not know if I can explain it," she said. "It is just who we are. Where we come from, life is hard. Our world is dangerous. We learned a long time ago that the only way to survive is to help each other. When one person falls, another picks them up. When one person is hurt, another takes care of them. It is not complicated. It is just what you do. Even for strangers." "Especially for strangers," said, "because strangers can become friends. Enemies can become allies. We learned that too. The universe is big and cold and empty, but it does not have to be lonely, not if we take care of each other." Thought about that. He thought about the Empire and its long history. They had conquered many worlds. They had defeated many enemies, but they had never thought about helping strangers. They had never considered that enemies might become friends. Maybe that was why the old warnings were so frightening. Not because humans were violent or unstoppable, but because humans represented something they had never imagined. A different way of being, a different way of surviving. The ship jumped back into normal space near territory. Medical vessels were waiting for them. Watched as the wounded were transferred to proper hospitals. He watched finally allow someone to treat her injuries. He watched refuse treatment until every single was off his ship. When the last survivor was gone, sat down heavily in his captain's chair. He looked like he had aged 10 years in one day. His leg was badly hurt. His hands were cut and burned, but he was smiling. 31 lives saved, he said to no one in particular. Not a bad day. Stood in the doorway of the bridge. He did not know what to say. Thank you seemed too small, too weak. These humans had risked everything for people they had never met. They had suffered and bled and nearly died. And now they sat there smiling like they had done nothing special. "I must report to my council," said finally. "They will want to know what happened here." Nodded. "Tell them whatever you want. We just did what we came to do." Left the human ship and returned to his shuttle. As he flew back toward he thought about what he would say to the council. He thought about the old warnings and how wrong they were. The warnings had said humans were dangerous. They were right about that, but not in the way the council feared. Humans were dangerous because they cared. They were dangerous because they would not give up. They were dangerous because they would bleed and suffer and die for people they had never met. And that kind of danger, realized, was exactly what the galaxy needed. The attack came without warning. Was still in his shuttle, halfway between the human ship and the medical vessels. One moment the space around him was quiet. The next moment it was full of fire. 3 ships dropped out of hyperspace. They were ugly vessels covered in weapons and armor plates. Pirate ships. Recognized the design. The Hollow Fang Raiders. They attacked ships in territory and disappeared before anyone could stop them. And now they had found easy prey. A rescue ship, medical vessels, ships full of wounded and unarmed civilians. Watched in horror as the first pirate ship fired on the nearest medical vessel. The shot hit the engine section. The vessel spun out of control, trailing fire and debris. "All ships, this is Captain," a voice crackled over the communication channel. "Get behind us. We will hold them off." Turned his shuttle around. He had to see this. The human rescue ship, the Mercy, was moving forward. It was placing itself between the pirates and the helpless medical vessels. This was madness. The Mercy was a rescue ship. It was not built for combat. It had light armor and basic weapons. The pirate ships were warships. They were faster, stronger, and far more deadly. But was not running, he was fighting. The Mercy opened fire. Its weapons were weak compared to the pirate ships, but was a skilled pilot. She dodged and weaved through space, making the Mercy a difficult target. She found angles that let their weapons hit vulnerable spots on the enemy vessels. The first pirate ship took a hit to its weapon systems. One of its main guns exploded. but the other two ships closed in. They fired again and again. The Mercy shook with each impact. Could hear the chaos through the communication channel, alarms screaming, people shouting, metal groaning under stress. "Hull breach on deck 3, someone yelled. "We are losing atmosphere." "I am on it," voice responded. A moment later saw her running through the ship on the internal cameras. She had left the pilot seat. Someone else was flying now. She was running toward the breach. The hole in the hull was as wide as a human body. Air was rushing out into space. Warning lights flashed red. Grabbed an emergency patch kit and ran straight toward the breach. The air pressure tried to pull her through the hole. She grabbed a support beam and held on. Her feet lifted off the ground. Her body was being pulled toward space, but she did not let go. She held on with one hand and used the other to position the patch. The patch required heat to seal, activated the heat generator. The metal glowed orange, then white. The patch began to melt into place, but something went wrong. The generator malfunctioned. It exploded in a burst of flame. Screamed, the fire had burned her hands. Could see the damage on the camera. Her skin was black and red. Blisters formed instantly. The pain must have been incredible. But did not stop. She dropped the broken generator and pressed the patch against the hull with her bare hands. She pushed it into place with her burned flesh. The metal was still hot. It burned her more with each second. But she kept pushing. She kept sealing the breach. When the patch finally locked into place, fell to the floor, she was gasping for breath. Her hands were destroyed. She would need months of treatment to heal them, but she was smiling. "Breach sealed," she said into her communicator. "Get back to killing those pirates." On the bridge had taken back the controls. He was flying the ship himself now. The Mercy was damaged, but it was still fighting. It was still protecting the medical vessels behind it. The pirates were getting angry. Their easy raid had turned into a real battle. They focused all their fire on the Mercy. They wanted to destroy this annoying little ship and get to the helpless targets behind it. A plasma shot hit the bridge. The front window shattered. Emergency shields activated, but not before the explosion threw everyone backward. Saw slam into a console. He saw blood spray from a wound in the captain's side. But stood up. He had a hole in his body. Plasma had burned through his uniform and into his flesh. Could see the wound clearly on the camera. It was bad, very bad. Should have been on the floor, dying. But he walked back to the controls. He grabbed the flight stick with bloody hands, and he kept flying. "Captain, you need medical attention," someone said. Later replied. His voice was tight with pain but steady. "We still have pirates to kill." A second plasma shot hit him in the shoulder. His arm went limp. He shifted his weight and started flying with one hand. A third shot hit his leg. He fell to one knee, but he did not let go of the controls. He kept flying. He kept fighting. Even with 3 holes in his body, even with blood pooling on the floor beneath him. The crew members aboard the Mercy watched in shock. They had never seen anything like this. They had never imagined that anyone could absorb so much damage and keep functioning. Some of them started to help. They brought medical supplies. They tried to patch wounds while he flew. "What are you doing?" one of them asked. "You should stop, you should rest, you are dying." Laughed, it was a wet, painful sound. "Everyone dies eventually," he said. "But not today, not while those pirates are still out there, not while there are still people who need protecting." Minyu appeared on the bridge. He had been fighting fires in the lower decks. His clothes were burned. His skin was red and blistered. But he took position at the weapons console and started firing. "Is down," he reported, "but the breach is sealed. Engineering is holding together." "Good," said. "Now help me kill these bastards." The 2 men worked together. Flew. Minyu fired. They moved like they had done this 1,000 times. Maybe they had. Realized he knew nothing about these humans. He did not know their history or their experiences, but he could see their skill. He could see their determination. The first pirate ship took a direct hit to its reactor. The explosion was massive. The ship broke apart in a ball of fire. One down, two to go. But the Mercy was dying too. More breaches, more fires, more systems failing. The ship was held together by willpower and nothing else. Arrived on the bridge, she had been treating wounded in the medical bay. Now she ran to side. She started working on his wounds while he flew. "You need surgery," she said. "Right now. If we do not stop the bleeding, you will die in minutes." "Then you have minutes to work," said. "I am not leaving this chair." Did not argue. She just started cutting. Right there on the bridge, right in the middle of battle. She opened wounds and started repairing the damage while plasma fire exploded around them. Had stopped breathing. He was watching this on his shuttle's screens and he had forgotten how to breathe. This was impossible. All of this was impossible. Humans should not be able to do this. No species should be able to do this. But the humans kept doing it. They kept fighting. They kept surviving. They refused to accept that they were beaten. Minyu scored another hit. The second pirate ship lost its engines. It drifted helplessly in space. The third ship, seeing what had happened to its companions, tried to run. It did not get far. The military had finally arrived. 3 warships dropped out of hyperspace and opened fire on the fleeing pirate. The battle was over in seconds. The pirate ship was destroyed. The remaining crippled vessel surrendered. The communication channel filled with voices, questions, demands, orders, but was not listening. He was watching the bridge of the Mercy. Had finally let go of the controls. He slumped back in his chair. His eyes were closed. His skin was gray. Was still working on him, shouting for help. "He has lost too much blood," she said. "I need a transfusion. Someone find me compatible blood." The crew members looked at each other. They did not know human biology. They did not know how to help, but they tried. They brought supplies. They followed instructions. They did whatever she asked. Found himself praying. He did not know who he was praying to. They did not have gods, but he prayed anyway. He prayed for this strange, stubborn human to survive. He prayed for all of them to survive. Hours passed. The Mercy was towed to a station for repairs. The wounded were transferred to hospitals. And somehow, against all logic and reason, no one died. Not the survivors not the humans who had fought to protect them. Not even. Visited him in the hospital. The human captain was lying in a bed surrounded by machines. He was pale and weak, but he was awake, and he was smiling. "We did it," said. His voice was barely a whisper. "Everyone is safe." "You nearly died," said. "You took 3 plasma shots. You lost half your blood. You flew a ship while a doctor operated on you. This is not normal. This is not possible." Shrugged that human gesture again. "We were cautioned about your kind," continued. "Ancient warnings. They said humans do not stop. They keep coming, even while bleeding, even while dying." "Sounds about right," said. "I did not understand before," said. "I thought it was a story, a myth, but now I have seen it with my own eyes. You should be dead, all of you should be dead, but you kept fighting. Why do you not stop?" Was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was tired but certain. "Because stopping means giving up," he said. "And giving up means people die. People who are counting on us. People who cannot save themselves. I cannot live with that. None of us can, so we keep going. We keep fighting. We keep moving forward, no matter what, no matter how much it hurts." He closed his eyes. "That is what it means to be human," he said. "We are stubborn, we are stupid, we are too dumb to know when we are beaten." He smiled weakly. "But we never ever quit." Stood there for a long time, watching the human sleep. He thought about the old warnings. He thought about what he had seen today. And he realized that the warnings had been wrong about one thing. They had called humans a threat. They had said to fear them. But humans were not a threat. They were an opportunity. They were allies that would never abandon you. friends that would bleed for you, warriors that would die for you. And that, realized, was worth more than all the fear in the galaxy. The hospital was the largest in the sector. It had thousands of beds and hundreds of doctors. It had treated warriors and politicians and criminals, but it had never treated humans before. The medical staff did not know what to do. Human biology was strange to them. Human blood was red instead of blue. Human bones were dense and heavy. Human organs were in different places than organs. Everything about them was wrong. But the humans helped. Even while lying in hospital beds, they helped. With her burned and bandaged hands, told the doctors how to treat her. She explained human medicine in simple terms. She guided them through procedures she could not perform herself. Watched from the doorway. He had not left the hospital since the battle ended. He could not leave. He needed to see what happened next. He needed to understand these creatures who had saved his people. Was in the worst condition. The 3 plasma shots had done massive damage. His organs were burned. His bones were cracked. He had lost so much blood that his heart had stopped twice during surgery, but he was still alive. The doctors said it was a miracle, thought it was something else, something the doctors did not have a word for. Stubbornness, will, the simple refusal to die. Was in the bed next to. Her hands were wrapped in thick bandages. The burns were severe. The doctors said she might never regain full use of her fingers. When they told her this, she just nodded. "That is okay," she said. "I can learn to use them again. I have time." "Does it not upset you?" one of the doctors asked. "You may never fly a ship the same way again." Looked at her bandaged hands. She was quiet for a moment. "I sealed that breach," she said finally. "I kept the ship together. I saved the people inside. If I have to pay for that with my hands, then that is a fair price." The doctor did not know how to respond. He just walked away, shaking his head. Minyu was in better condition than the others. His burns were painful but not permanent. He would heal in a few weeks, but he did not stay in his bed. He kept getting up. He kept checking on his. He kept helping the doctors and the nurses. "You need to rest," told him. "Your body needs time to recover." Minyu shrugged, that human gesture. "I will rest when everyone else is okay," he said, "not before." Followed him through the hospital. He watched Minyu visit each member of the human crew. He watched him bring water and food. He watched him talk to them, make them laugh, keep their spirits up. There were other humans in the hospital too. Crew members had not met during the battle. Engineers and technicians who had fought fires and sealed breaches. Pilots who had maneuvered debris and wreckage. Cooks and cleaners who had carried the wounded to safety. All of them were hurt in some way. All of them had pushed through their pain to help others. And all of them had collapsed only after the work was done. Found this fascinating. The pattern was the same for every human. They worked and fought and suffered until the crisis was over. Then their bodies simply stopped, like machines running out of fuel, like candles burning down to nothing. He asked Minyu about this. "It is adrenaline," Minyu explained. "When we are in danger, our bodies make chemicals that help us keep going. We become stronger, faster. We feel less pain. It lets us do things we normally could not do." "But there is a cost," said. It was not a question. "Yes," Minyu admitted. "When the danger is over, the chemicals stop, and then we feel everything, all the pain we ignored, all the damage we caused ourselves. It hits us all at once. And you know this will happen. You know you will suffer." "Yes, but you do it anyway." Minyu looked at him with tired eyes. "What else would we do?" he asked. "Let people die because we are afraid of hurting later. That is not how we work. That is not who we are." Thought about this for a long time. He thought about the way of doing things. Careful, calculated, always weighing costs and benefits, always protecting themselves first. They would never sacrifice their own for strangers. It was not logical. It was not efficient. But maybe it was not supposed to be logical. Maybe it was not supposed to be efficient. Maybe some things were more important than logic and efficiency. Over the next few days, continued to visit the hospital. He watched the humans recover. He watched them help each other. He watched them help the patients who shared the ward with them. One moment stood out to him above all others. It was late at night. The hospital was quiet. Most of the patients were sleeping, but could not sleep. He walked through the dark hallways thinking. He heard a sound coming from one of the rooms, a crying sound. He followed it and found a young child sitting alone in a bed. The child was one of the survivors from her parents had not survived. She was alone and scared and crying in the dark. Was about to call for a nurse when he saw movement in the corner of the room. She had gotten out of her own bed and walked to the child's room. Her bandaged hands hung at her sides, useless. She could not pick up the child. She could not hold her. But she sat down on the edge of the bed. She leaned close to the child, and she started to sing. Did not understand the words. They were in a human language he had never heard, but the melody was soft and sad and beautiful. It filled the room like warm water. The child stopped crying. She looked up with wide, wet eyes. Kept singing. She sang until the child fell asleep. Then she stayed there, watching over her until the sun came up. When asked her about it later, seemed embarrassed. She was alone, said. She was scared. I could not do much with my hands like this, but I could be there. I could let her know she was not alone. That is something, right? You were in pain, said. You should have been resting. Pain does not matter, said. Not when someone needs you. There is always time to heal later. But that child needed someone right then, at that moment. If I had ignored her, she would have spent the whole night crying alone. I could not let that happen. Did not know what to say. He just stood there, looking at this strange, soft creature who had given so much of herself for people she did not know. I have to report to my council, he said finally. They want to know what happened. They want to understand humans. Smiled weakly. Good luck with that. We do not even understand ourselves most of the time. Took a shuttle to the council chamber. He had spent days preparing his report. He had gathered data and testimony. He had recorded everything he had witnessed. But when he stood before the council, he found that none of that mattered. Ambassador, High Speaker said, "Tell us about the humans." Opened his mouth to begin his prepared speech. Then he stopped. He closed his mouth. He thought about everything he had seen, and he realized that no report, no matter how detailed, could capture the truth. I cannot explain them, he said finally. I can only tell you what I witnessed. He told them about the rescue. He told them about treating patients with blood running down her arm. He told them about sealing the breach with her bare hands. He told them about taking 3 plasma shots and refusing to stop fighting. He told them about the human girl singing to a crying child in the dark. The council listened in silence. When finished, no one spoke for a long moment. The old warnings, said finally. They said humans are dangerous. They said to fear them. The warnings were wrong, said. Or rather, they were incomplete. Yes, humans are dangerous. Yes, they do not stop. Yes, they keep coming even while bleeding. But the warnings did not explain why. Why then? Asked. Thought about all the humans he had met. He thought about their stubborn, selfless, impossible determination. Because they care, he said. They do not fight because they want to destroy. They fight because they want to protect. They do not ignore pain because they cannot feel it. They ignore pain because other things matter more to them. Their friends, their allies, even strangers they have never met. He paused. Humans are not monsters, he said. They are something else, something we have never encountered before, something we do not have a word for. What do you suggest we do? Asked. Thought about the question carefully. He thought about history. He thought about all the species they had conquered and defeated. He thought about the future and what it might hold. I suggest we make them our friends, he said. Because if humans will bleed for strangers, imagine what they would do for allies. Imagine what they would do for people they actually care about. The council discussed and debated. They argued and disagreed, but in the end they voted. The vote was unanimous. The Empire would reach out to the humans. They would offer friendship. They would offer alliance. And they would hope with all their hearts that the humans would accept. Because was right about one thing. Humans were dangerous. They were stubborn and relentless and unstoppable. And there was nothing more terrifying than having them as your enemy. But there was also nothing more comforting than having them as your friend. 1 year had passed since the rescue of the survivors. Stood at the window of his office, looking out at the city below. The capital was beautiful at night. Towers of crystal and metal rose toward the stars. Lights sparkled like jewels scattered across velvet. Ships moved through the sky, their engines humming with power. But tonight, there was something new in the sky. A human ship, the first official human diplomatic vessel to visit the council had sent the invitation months ago. The humans had accepted, and now, finally, they were here. Was nervous. He had seen humans at their best. He had witnessed their courage and their kindness, but he did not know how the rest of them would react. Many of them had grown up hearing the old warnings. They still believed that humans were monsters, dangerous creatures to be feared and avoided. Tonight that would change. Tonight the truth would come out. The human ship landed at the central platform. When to meet it, a crowd had gathered. Hundreds had come to see these strange creatures for themselves. They whispered to each other. Their scales rippled with anxiety. The ship's door opened, and out stepped. He looked different than before. He had healed from his wounds, though could see the scars on his neck where the plasma had burned him. He walked with a slight limp that would never fully go away. But his eyes were the same, dark and steady and full of that strange inner light. Behind him came and Minu. The rest of the crew followed. They were all wearing clean uniforms. They all looked healthy and strong, but knew what it had cost them to stand there. He knew how much they had suffered. The crowd fell silent. Everyone was watching, waiting. Walked forward until he stood directly in front of. Then he did something unexpected. He bowed. A deep, respectful bow. "Ambassador," he said, "on behalf of humanity, I thank you for this invitation. We are honored to be here." Did not know how to respond. In culture, bowing was a sign of submission, of weakness, but did not look weak. He looked like someone who chose to show respect, someone who was strong enough to bend without breaking. Captain said, "On behalf of the Empire, I welcome you. Please come with me. The High Council is waiting." They walked through the city together. The crowds followed at a distance, still whispering, still watching. Could hear their questions. Why are they so small? Why is their skin so soft? Are they really dangerous? He wanted to stop and explain. He wanted to tell them everything he had learned. But that would come later. First, there was official business to attend to. The council chamber was full when they arrived. Every seat was taken. Representatives from across the Empire had come to witness this moment. They all stared at the humans with a mix of curiosity and fear. High Speaker rose from his seat. "Humans," he said, his voice echoed through the chamber. "You have been brought here because one of your ships saved 31 lives. You fought pirates to protect our people. Your crew suffered terrible injuries but refused to stop. We wish to understand why." Stepped forward. He did not seem nervous. He looked around the chamber at all the watching eyes and he smiled. "With respect, High Speaker," he said, "I am not sure I can explain why. I can only tell you what we believe." "Then tell us." Nodded, he took a deep breath. "We believe that life is precious," he said. "All life. Not just human life. Every person who exists is a universe unto themselves. They have thoughts and feelings and dreams. They have people who love them and need them. When someone dies, that universe is gone forever. We cannot bring it back. We cannot replace it." He paused. We also believe that pain is temporary, he continued. We will heal. Our wounds will close, our scars will fade, but death is permanent. If we can prevent a death by suffering a little pain, that is a trade we will always make, every time, without hesitation. The council members looked at each other. This was not what they had expected. They had prepared for threats, for demands, for negotiation. Instead, they were getting philosophy. You speak of suffering pain for others, said, but your crew nearly died. Captain, you took 3 plasma shots to your body. That is not a little pain. That is death barely avoided. Nodded. You are right. I almost died, but I did not die. And because I kept fighting, 31 survived who would have been killed by those pirates. Is that not worth the risk? But why, pressed? You did not know those, they were strangers. Why risk your life for strangers? Was quiet for a moment. Then he said something that changed everything. Because strangers are just friends we have not met yet. The chamber fell silent, could see the impact of those words on the council members. They were simple words, almost childishly simple, but they contained a truth that they had never considered. We believe in connection, continued. We believe that every person we meet has the potential to become important to us. A stranger today might be a partner tomorrow. An enemy today might be an ally next year. We do not know what the future holds, so we treat everyone as if they matter, because they do matter. Everyone matters. He looked around the chamber. That is why we came when we heard your distress signal. That is why we fought to save your people. Not because we expected anything in return, not because we wanted power or influence. Simply because your people needed help and we were able to give it. Leaned back in his chair, he was thinking, could see the gears turning in his mind. The old warnings about your species, said finally. They said humans are dangerous. They said you do not stop, you keep coming even while bleeding. Those warnings are accurate, said. But they were meant to frighten us. Smiled, it was a sad smile. They were meant to explain us, he said. We are dangerous, we do keep coming, we do not stop, but that is not a threat, it is a promise. When we decide that something matters, we will fight for it until our last breath. We will never give up, we will never surrender, we will keep coming no matter what. He stepped forward, closer to the council. The question is not whether humans are dangerous, he said. The question is who we are dangerous for, and the answer depends on you. Raised one clawed hand. Explain. If you treat us as enemies, we will be the most relentless enemies you have ever faced. We will fight you forever. We will never stop. Generations will pass and we will still be fighting. That is what it means to be human. Paused. But if you treat us as friends, he continued, we will be the most loyal friends you have ever known. We will protect you. We will fight for you. We will die for you if necessary. And we will never ever abandon you. No matter how hard things get, no matter how dark the times become, we will stand beside you until the very end. The chamber was completely silent. Every was staring at the small human who had just promised them the universe. Stepped forward. This was his moment. The moment he had been waiting for since he first watched the humans cut their way into the High Speaker, he said. Counselors, I have seen these humans in action. I have watched them bleed for our people. I have watched them ignore their own pain to save strangers. Every word Captain has spoken is true. He looked around the chamber. The old warnings were not wrong, he said, but they were incomplete. Yes, humans are dangerous, but they are dangerous in a way we never imagined. They are dangerous because they care. They are dangerous because they will never stop fighting for the things they believe in. He paused. I recommend that we accept their offer of friendship, not because we fear them, not because we want to control them, but because they are exactly the kind of allies we have always needed, allies who will never give up, allies who will never abandon us, allies who will keep coming even while bleeding to stand beside us in our darkest hour. The vote was held that night. It was unanimous. The Empire and the human nations would be friends, partners, allies. They would share knowledge and technology. They would trade goods and ideas. They would stand together against any threat. And if anyone ever tried to harm the alliance, they would face the combined strength of two species who refused to give up. Two species who kept coming, even while bleeding. The humans had come to space as strangers. They had come to help. They had come to save lives. And in doing so, they had done something even more remarkable. They had made friends. Years later, historians would look back on this moment. They would call it the beginning of a new era. They would write about the alliance between and humans. They would describe the great things that were accomplished when two species stood together. But knew the truth. It had all started with one small ship, one rescue mission, one group of humans who refused to stop. They were cautioned about humans. The warnings said they were dangerous. The warnings were right. But they did not explain that being dangerous was sometimes exactly what the galaxy needed. The humans kept coming, even while bleeding, and because of that the galaxy would never be the same.